Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg, episode 593. Playing a little RimWorld here. Um, I really do want to record some sort of playthrough for Odyssey. I started recording one like several months ago, and then it was like, oh, I'll just play a little bit on my own because I want to get to the Odyssey content, and then I just kind of ignored it for a long time, and then I reformatted, installed Linux, and blah blah blah. So now I started a new one, and I'm enjoying it, taking my time. Not, it's really not that stressful a playthrough or anything. I just want to check out the Odyssey content, the grab ships and stuff. So, just sort of building my way up to that point. But RimWorld's always great for hanging with Mangg because I can just set it at normal speed and let it run, and I'm technically playing while I talk. Right. So this week on this channel, we had Dominions, of course. I don't know when it'll end. I really have no idea. Actually, I probably can ballpark it. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. Let me just see. It's still a lot. It's still quite a lot. General ballpark. God. Around 200 more to go. 200 more videos to go. So that's 7 videos a week. So that's 70 videos every 10 weeks. So, like 30 weeks. That's not that long, right? 30 weeks goes by in the blink of an Yeah, I recorded an ungodly amount. And it's like, I'm just kind of like waiting. I'm just trying to let time pass before I start recording more, because I do want to play more Dominions. Now, it's been about 4 months now since I played it. And it's like, oh yeah, look at all these cool new modded nations. I don't know, man. But yeah, it's like 30 weeks is a long time. That's like that's like 7.5 months. So at this rate, yeah, like October is when I'll be caught up. Which, if I don't play Dominions until then, that will be 1 year without Dominions. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. So, presumably then, by the time I finish this batch of uploads, there will be plenty more videos to upload anyways. So, Dominions will never end. It'll never ever end. We also had solo RPGs. I have a lot of that, too. That, I don't know. That, I mean, obviously, that's not nearly as much, but it's a pretty good amount. Oh boy, yeah, I recorded quite a bit of that. Let's say, uh, hmm, yeah, maybe, oh gosh, 70 videos or so that I still have to upload as solo RPGs. So, I just get on these tangents. I just get on these phases of just like, yep, this is my life now. This is all I care about. I'll never like anything else ever again except for this one thing. And then it's actually sort of common, I think, in my family. My family members tend to get very obsessive about like one thing at a time. Like Legos like that. My dad's been like that, like just Yeah, it's somewhat of a common trait. And mine just sort of presents itself as let's plays of a singular thing for a long period of time. So yeah, we've got a lot of Dominions, we've got a lot of solo RPGs. I've also started uploading Ashes. It's a post-apocalyptic Doom mod. It's very good. It's almost unfair to call it a Doom mod. It's really just a post-apocalyptic boomer shooter that happens to be made with like the Doom engine. But it's good. It's good, so I'll keep uploading that. That's pretty much it. Uh there is I did want to record well, I have been recording Breath of Fire, the Breath of Fire series here and there. I've been recording a lot of boomer shooter stuff actually. I recorded, Ashes, and I did Proteus, and I did Cultic, and now I've been doing just a lot of like Doom mods and Doom wads and stuff. I've been looking at a bunch of them. Um, some for longer periods of time than others, of course. But yeah, I've been bouncing around there. So I've been really in a boomer shooter mood lately, I guess. Uh, and then I was looking at I bought it. It's another game from the company that made Nightmare Frames. So it's another point and click adventure game from them. And this one is Lovecraftian themed, set in like 1933 in Arkham. It's called The Dark Rites of Arkham. And it looks really good. It looks, the same sort of quality as Nightmare Frames and everything. So that should really be up my alley. So I'll be recording that at some point and uploading that at some point. But so much to upload. Which is good. For a little period there I was like, I'm running out of stuff to upload. Like, I didn't have that much, like, finished, complete stuff to upload. Now we definitely don't have that problem. I have too much. Well, everything ebbs and flows. Over on the Exploring series, I uploaded Kagemusha. Japanese World War II historical anomaly sort of thing. I didn't really look at the comments section of that. I mean, I don't usually look at comment sections, but sometimes if it's a video that I'm really like excited about or really pleased with, I'll glance at the comment section, but that's not that often. So I didn't look at this comment section, but I know the discussion thread for the SCP itself brought up multiple people that were kind of disgruntled with it because it was making sort of a form of entertainment about these real world atrocities that happened with Unit 731 and all that sort of stuff. And so I kind of addressed that a little bit at the end. It's tricky for me because I don't get offended by anything ever. Like, it's possible to. I'm not sure it's possible to offend me, but I'm also, a straight white male in the United States of America, so, there's that. So I don't really have any sort of frame of reference for that kind of thing. So, I didn't want to make like a bunch of jokes throughout that video or anything, but yeah, I didn't really look at the comments. And then this week I worked on something that might catch a lot of people's eyes. We'll see. It's an SCP, I think 9341, called Containment Breach Capacity. And it's an SCP about Containment Breach, the game. Well, it's not about the game, but it's basically an article mirroring the events of that game. I've never played that game. I don't like playing horror games. But I might pick it up this week and actually try and play through it. I don't think it's that long. Let me just check. Okay, it is. Well, the main story it says is 3 hours. Main story plus side is 8 hours. Completionist 29 and a half hours. What the hell? Why does it take like 43 hours to beat this with 100%? What is, are there just some like insane achievements, or is this, huh? I thought this was just like a short little like itch.io sort of horror game. Well, here's a video. Containment Breach 2022 full playthrough, 3 hours long. I assume this person knows everything about it, though. Yeah, I'm just looking at footage. It's like, I will not enjoy this at all. Yeah, I don't like horror games at all. Um, which I think is probably pretty surprising to some people because I absolutely love horror. I love horror movies. I love horror stories, books, whatever. I love all that. But horror games just freak me the fuck out, and not in a fun way. So the only reason I was like, maybe I should buy it and play through it and stuff is to get footage for the video, for part two of the video. Um, but I guarantee, like, if I went on Twitter and said, like, hey, does anyone want to supply their footage of them playing Containment Breach? I'll credit you. I guarantee I'd get something, right? So I don't have to play through it, and I could just watch like this full playthrough just to get a little bit of the sense of the the lore presented and the way that the whole thing is presented and stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think I really need to tie it into the game at all because I've never played it. I didn't really know anything about it. I know it existed, obviously, but that was about it. And there's a couple things that I think knowledge from the fact that the game exists and everything. I think there's some, like the Project Spiral Gestalt. In the game, apparently that's like the in-universe explanation for why the main character can save and reload. And I think knowing that probably helps a little bit with understanding the article. That might be the only thing, but yeah, I haven't played the game and I haven't watched the footage, so maybe there's something else I'm missing. Anyways, it's a very interesting, unique, confusing article. It's very nested. There's like a total of 49 documents apparently spread across the whole thing, and a lot of them are sort of duplicate documents. So there's like an interview, and you can access it with level 4 clearance, and it'll show you the whole interview. But you can access it with like level 2 clearance, and most of it will be redacted, kind of thing. But then some of the documents, the redacted versions, actually are important because they contain like a new link or like hidden sort of text amidst the redactions and blah blah blah. So you kind of have to scour through the whole thing, and that's the main reason why this is a two-parter. It's just like I kind of needed 2 weeks to digest this whole thing. So rather than just saying like, "There's no video this week. I'm working on something. It'll be out next week." I could have done that. That might be the smarter thing to do. Instead, I broke it up into 2 parts. So the first part is basically just like, here's sort of the basic setup. No, nothing is answered in this video whatsoever. You're going to be completely confused, and then hopefully part 2 explains everything. So part 1 is only like 36 minutes long, which I believe is the shortest part 1 I've ever put out. So I'm sure that'll disappoint some people. It's just like it's not even like it's like a teaser almost. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I don't think part 2 will be massive. I don't think part 2 will be like an hour and a half or anything, but part 2 will definitely be more dense with explanations or theories, I suppose. Anyways, I think it'll catch a lot of people's eyes because it is based on a very, very popular SCP game. Yeah. So part 2 of that will be next week, and then so on and so forth from there. That's sort of it, I guess. Right. So, on Wednesday, we had ourselves an RPG stream, a Dungeons and Dragons stream, in fact. And that's not just a euphemism. It was actually Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. DM'd not by me, but by Lego. And he DM'd sort of the first half or so of a one-shot, a short adventure called Ghostlight from the Arcane Library. And so, I got to play somewhat recently with some friends where my buddy DM'd, and it was for Draw Steel, but it was very like the setup for a campaign. The DM, he was kind of all over the place. He didn't have everything really prepared. It was not a super eventful session, and it was kind of like the start of a campaign session. And it was Draw Steel, and it was our first time with Draw Steel, so it was mostly just combat. So it really wasn't that much of a session for me to play a lot, like get into a character and role play and all that. I feel like this music might be... And so this was, this was a one-shot, sort of, this was a self-contained thing, D&D 5th edition, Lego DMing, and I was like, okay. I was planning to play it very normal and boring. I was going to play Big McLarge Huge, and he's just a very, very boring fighter, and he's just dumb, and he's just like, okay, let's go. They want us to go this way. Let's go this way. But then, the intrusive thoughts got the better of me, and I was just like, fuck it. Big McLarge Huge he's got a big personality. He's got a big everything. And so he just kind of took charge and literally took charge and just went in straight into everything. Because after all this time of playing like these OSR games and running OSR games and Shadow Dark and all that, to finally play in a system of D&D 5th edition where it's like, yeah, you're kind of superheroes somewhat. Even a little bit at level 1, and Big McLarge Huge I built as a Goliath barbarian with a great axe, and he just seemed like really kind of fucking powerful at level 1 compared to what I've been playing. So yeah, I just charged in. So Ghostlight, I have not read it, and we're only like halfway through, so it's hard to really say, give my summary of it. But basically, we're on sea. We started at sea on some ship, and out of the fog comes this like ghost ship. And there doesn't seem to be anybody on board, but these like grappling hooks come flying out of the fog, and it pulls our ship next to this ghost ship, and we apparently were sort of beckoned. We felt beckoned to come aboard. So Big, of course, just leaps right over, brandishing his great axe and roaring to any ghosts that might be around. But there weren't any ghosts. There were just a bunch of giant rats. So we fought some giant rats. And first battle, giant rats. And of course, my nephew playing the elven wizard, he goes down. And I was actually pretty surprised. I mean, there's so many indicators to me that 5th edition is just like, it's just such an odd, lame game. Like, it doesn't fit in any neat position for me, right? Like, if I want sort of that old school experience, like I want rations to matter. I want things to, I want players to have to be smart and clever in order to surmount obstacles and fights. Like death is kind of a possibility around every corner, theoretically. But you get magic items and you get stronger and more powerful as you level up, and and all that, and the pursuit of treasure, and you get all that sort of stuff. OSE and swords and wizardry and Shadow Dark and blah blah blah. Like, it's not that. D&D 5th edition is not that at all. Like, all your numbers are too high at level 1. It's really hard to die, and enemies have, much increased health and everything. So it just, combat is not this quick little knife in a phone booth sort of experience of just like, ouch, I'm dead, you're dead, we're all dead, sort of. Like, it's more of just, I punch you, you punch me, I punch you, okay, I think you're dead, and I can still kill like 5 more things. So it's not old school. But then, like, in the realm of new school, like superhero fantasy sort of realm, or narrative kind of fantasy stuff, like when you can compare it to 13th Age or Nimble or Draw Steel or Shadow the Weird Wizard, or even something like Dungeon World or whatever. Like, it's just, it falters in so many ways. It's so kind of adherent to this old way of doing things without truly modernizing it. So yeah, one good example was healing. Like Draw Steel, in combat, after combat, whatever, if I want to heal, you have recoveries, and you have a certain number of recoveries per day, like 8 of them or something, and you can just heal, and you're just like, yes, I can heal, and you go on to the next thing. Because the game doesn't, I mean, the recoveries is an important mechanic, and you can run out, and you do have to be somewhat conscious of how many you're using and all that, but it also ties into the healing magic system as well, because that uses recoveries up as well. But the game isn't really concerned with patching yourself up too much in between fights. It's just about getting to the next fight and doing as many fights as you can before having to take a day off for a respite or something. What else? Like Weird Wizard is obviously, it was the one thing I didn't really like about it. But yeah, again, if you go down in combat, you roll a d20, and if you roll like above a 10 or something, you back up with 1 hit point, and you just get to go back into the fight right away, and that feels fun and modern and quick. 13th Age also uses like a recovery system, sort of like 4th edition D&D and all that. 5th edition does not have a recovery system. It instead has short rests, where you have to spend an hour sitting there doing nothing, and then after that hour you can use a hit die, and you have a number of hit die equal to your level, I believe, which really just encourages and perpetuates this kind of 10-minute adventuring day thing, and it's like, it's slightly better than a 10-minute adventuring day. It might be a 20-minute adventuring day or something. There is some concessions there that, like, you have certain abilities and you get a little bit back after a short rest or something, but it's like right smack in this middle between the old school, like, resource management is very important. Death is very possible, and you have to be clever about things to stay alive. Versus the new modernized system of just like, look, we just want to sit around the table, we just want to throw dice, and we just want to have fun, and we're not too concerned that our characters are superhumans sort of experience. I mean, death is a possibility in any of these games, of course, but yeah, something like 13th Age or Draw Steel, it's like, we want to be epic, we want to be cinematic, we want to have fun tactical combat and all that. This is not a resource management game in the same way as BX D&D. 5th edition for me, it just falls right in the middle, right in the ass crack. Because so the short rest, yeah, you get 1 hit die back, blah, blah, blah. If you go down, however, say you go down in combat, you go to 0 hit points, you're rolling your death saving throws. Unless you roll a 20, which brings you back up with 1 hit point, basically like rolling a 10 or higher or 11 or higher in Weird Wizard. Unless you roll a 20, the best you can hope for is to be stabilized. And once you're stabilized, you recover 1 hit point after 1d4 hours. And unless you have healing potions, which, again, it's 5th edition, so maybe they're really, really common. But, I mean, I think we did actually get one during our adventures, so it's a possibility. But unless you have healing potions or, like, healing magic, and we did not have a cleric. We did not have any healer in our group. So unless you have that, you're just stuck there for 1d4 hours, because an unconscious character cannot benefit from a short rest. So those hit dice you have are useless until you're actually conscious again. And it was just like, it's not that big of a deal. I get it. But again, it's right in that ass crack. Because if you run an old school game, like, you're probably dead at 0. Or maybe if you run a more casual game, it's like, or, I use like the axe rules with mortal wounds and stuff. And it's like, okay, you might have to rest for like a week or something, to recover. And it's like, oh, holy shit, it's serious. And it's like, yeah, but that's the kind of game you're running. If you're running like a big sandbox sort of larger scale campaign, it's like, yeah, we might have to rest for a week in town. So be it. But if you're running something akin to a modern fantasy superhero game, you don't want to do that, and you don't want to really rest for 1d4 hours either. You don't want to pause the game for 1d4 hours for really no good reason. Because, yes, we could just say, okay, we sit there for 1d4 hours, and the DM's like, okay, 1d4 hours has gone by. He has 1 hit point again. Okay, now we're going to take a short rest so that he can get his hit dice and blah, 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 and recover. It's like, okay, another hour's gone by, and it's like, great. Whereas if we play, like, Draw Steel, it's just like, okay, slap him on the back, tickle his anus, and he's back in the fight. Like, whatever. Because that's what we want to do. That's what we're all here for. In that case, depending on the type of game you want. 5th edition, I don't know who it's really for. I don't know who 5th edition is for except for D&D 5th edition fans, which is a lot of people, granted, but it's a lot of people that just don't know or don't care any better or anything, and it's like, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a person that plays 5th edition that wouldn't like a different game more if they had an honest chance with it and were honest with themselves. I think a lot of people are very married to, like, the 5th edition culture and the D&D sort of community and culture and everything, Critical Role and all that kind of thing. Like, it's a brand. And it's more about, like, the brand than anything. But as a game, yeah, I just don't see a lot of merit in it. So, I'm playing it because Lego's familiar with it. He's played through Baldur's Gate multiple times, Baldur's Gate 3 multiple times. I'm familiar with it. Our nephew has played through Baldur's Gate 3. It's similar to Shadowdark in a lot of ways. It's D20, roll high, that sort of thing, with various modifiers, blah, blah, blah. And it has pre-written adventures that Lego could run, and it is sort of combat focused, which is easier to DM, I find, generally. But it's like, We could play Pathfinder Second Edition, which is already just sort of a better game and has more material written for it. For one, but yeah, I mean, we could play. Well, and that's the thing. It's like he didn't want to convert anything. He didn't want to have to convert anything, and I didn't want him to have to convert anything. And so Draw Steel has some material written for it, but not that much. And it's definitely more complicated for a couple of our party members. Weird Wizard definitely has some stuff written for it, but it's far easier for me to just kind of break over my knee with the various spells and abilities and stuff compared to D&D. 13th Age, not much material. Probably could have found something. Maybe that could have worked. Possibly. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, Pathfinder probably would be the best bet if we're interested in pre-written material for a modern fantasy game. But I brought it up afterwards, and I discussed it with, my mom and my aunt, and I discussed this with Lego as well, and it's just like, you probably would be better just DMing Shadowdark. Shadowdark module is obviously going to be a lot more sparsely written than a 5th edition one. There's not going to be like big descriptions for every room that he just gets to read aloud and stuff. But everything is going to be so much simpler. Combat's going to be so much simpler. You don't have to do a grid. You can just do Theater of the Mind. All the monster stat blocks are going to be very simple, very bare bones for him to run. The rooms themselves are going to be very simple. And just the fact that it's a dungeon. It's just a dungeon. Room to room, trap to trap, monster to monster. It's a fucking dungeon. Compared to, like, Ghostlight, where it has NPCs and a plot line. And you're meant to go along this specific kind of plot line. And as we saw, or if you watched the stream of Ghostlight, I threw him some curveballs, to say the least. After we killed the rats, our wizard was down on the ground, unconscious, and he was going to be unconscious for 1d4 hours, and it was just like, we're on board a ghost ship. Big McLarge is not just going to sit around and wait for this namby-pamby elf wizard to wake up. So Big pissed all over him on the ground and then charged down underneath the deck through like through a trapdoor or whatever, down some stairs by himself. And Big entered into this room, this massive like tavern room under the boat. So obviously there's some spatial shenanigans going on. And there's all sorts of like ghostly sailors and some living sailors, and there's a bartender. And the bartender's like waving me over, and I said, okay, that's a fucking necromancer. I don't trust him at all. So I grabbed one of my oil flasks and lit it on fire and threw it in his face. And I rolled like a 23 or something. Which, Lego definitely enjoyed the curveball. He had a fun time with it, but it was very much a curveball, and it kind of stopped the game for a while as Lego was like trying to figure out how, because apparently this guy is like some sort of demigod or something. I don't know. I wasn't exactly clear on what he was in the end. But yeah, he's a non-combatant, and if he wanted to fight us, he would have just snuffed us out instantly, apparently. I don't know. After this is done, I'm going to have to read Ghostlight and figure out what exactly all was going on. But anyways, so most of the sailors and stuff ran away in fear, but 3 of the ghosts decided to stay and fight Big McLarge. So Big soloed 3 of the ghosts and got solo XP for it. And then after that, he is just like, okay, he goes back up and he waits with the rest of the group, because I was like, he kind of needed to take a short rest after that. So then we all went down there and we spoke with this bartender who basically, something about like this ship delivers souls to the afterlife, but it delivers evil souls as well as good souls. And something has happened, underground underneath the ship here, where he's cut off from where the good souls are located, or something like that. So he wants us to go clear the way and find the good souls aboard the ship, or something like that. I didn't trust this guy at all. I said, I will go and I will deliver these souls, and then I will come for yours. And he's just like, okay. Um, and then I grabbed one of like the living sailors nearby and threw him down the trap door to make sure it was safe and not a trap. So then we go down and we enter into this wide open like field with a big tree in the middle of it, and there's sailors like dancing and singing around it and stuff. So we all have to roll like wisdom saves or something, because there's obviously some charm effect happening. And then my nephew again failed his save, so he lost control of his character again. And it's just like, god damn. He got to play for like 20 minutes of the session. So he lost control of his character, and I was like, he's weak. We will leave him here to his fancies. But they were all like, no, we can't leave him here, Big. We can't leave him here. And I'm like, fine. So I go and I'm gonna like throw him over my shoulder and take him with. But then apparently there's a secondary effect. As soon as you get close to someone caught under this spell, you also have to roll to see if you get caught under it. So Big failed that one, so he starts dancing as well. This was apparently a much lesser effect, though, because I broke out of it pretty quick, whereas he was caught in that effect for quite a while. So we, as Big starts dancing, a bunch more giant rats come out, like shadow rats, and we have to fight them. We kill all the rats, blah, blah, blah. We scare off the sailors, and we go into the big tree together. And then we descend down into some sewer system. And so the first thing I do is I throw some caltrops out in front of us at the entrance to the sewer, and I blow my whistle. Because, of course, I brought a whistle. And that brought out some more rats that charged at us. And they got caught in the caltrops, and then we basically just butchered them. It was nice and easy. It's a very OSR plan in a game that doesn't really need those kind of plans, but whatever, I'm practicing. Then I figured, okay, we're good. So basically, Big just charged around the entire sewer system, just roaring with his great axe and just running as fast as he can around this whole sewer complex. And yeah, and then the rest of the group basically were just like, yeah, we follow him, and it's like, yeah, what else can you do? Big's leading the way. They've had this problem. If you've watched any of the streams or heard me talk about this, they've had this problem as a group for the last few years since they started playing, of just being very indecisive. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be playing with you, and I'm not indecisive. And nobody exemplified that more than Big McLargehuge. Very decisive man. As it turns out, they want to be a little less decisive than that, I think. They want to have some agency, which is part of why I said, okay, I think Shadow Dark would probably be better. Because then, like, I can't just go off on my own, really. Like, we have to work as a group. I have to incorporate everyone, and we have to be kind of smart and methodical. Whereas 5e is just like, yeah, I can just charge ahead, and it's like, what's really going to happen to me, And yeah, true to my point, nothing happened to me. I even got some treasure out of it. But then we heard some, like, woman cackling, and I charged through a door, and there was, like, some old hag, some witch down there with a cauldron. And she was like, oh, let me speak to you. And I fucking cleaved her in half before she got another word out. And Lego was like, that one really threw him for a loop, apparently, because there wasn't even combat stats for her. Which surprised me to hear, that there wasn't combat stats for a witch inside of a ghost sewer. It's like, surely this is something that's going to be targeted by players. So I'm like, well, if she doesn't have stats, then treat her as a civilian. Sometimes they put stats at the end of the book, though, so I wonder... I don't want to spoil anything, but Let me just glance real quick at the end of the Ghostlight book, or the module. Because sometimes they put it at the very back, and you might not have realized that. No. No, he was on top of it. No, there is no stats. Um, yeah, I don't want to, oh yeah. No, he was very right. Oh, no, he wasn't quite right. Oh, okay. Oh, no. He was very wrong. Okay. Well, that's a learning experience for him. I will mention this to him. So it doesn't really have a stat block for her. All it says that tells you is that her name is Mad Tilly, neutral evil, or NE, and then it says Green Hag. And he kind of skipped over that because he didn't prepare much and he's pretty new to this. But yeah, she's a Green Hag, which is a pretty that's a challenge level 3 mon. I would not have cleaved her in half in one hit. She has 82 hit points, 17 AC. And she's an innate spellcaster. Does 13 damage with her claws. Yeah, she would have decimated big. Okay. I don't think that would have changed Big's decision though. I think he still would have tried to cleave her in half, but then he would have just died. So, yeah. Interesting. Okay, I will definitely clue him in on that. So yeah, she was not supposed to, because I told him like, okay, well if she doesn't have stats, she's like a civilian. You just treat her as a civilian. Like a level 0. But yeah, I cleaved her in half, and again, he appreciated the curveball. He thought it was funny. But that's basically where we ended. We looted her little hovel. I kicked over the cauldron, and that's where we ended. So we're gonna finish out Ghostlight this week. And then we'll see. Like I think he's probably leaning towards Shadow Dart, and probably will find it easier. That would just be my impression, and obviously I as a player would rather play Shadow Dark than 5th edition. Yeah, I was willing to do 5th edition because that's what we figured would be easiest for him to DM, perhaps incorrectly. But that's what we figured. I was like, okay, well, I get to play, so I'm willing to play. Obviously, the one-shot mentality sort of took over, and yeah, it wasn't great. But it's like the difficulty in running, say, an old school hex crawl. You feel like this is going to inspire Lego to be more loose with how he plays when he's not DMing, which could be bad. That could be. Do you mean loose as in like... Because I think that he's definitely gained a greater respect for the DM sort of position and how tricky it is. Like that, he said that to me a couple times. Like I have a lot more respect for what you do now. Because it isn't super easy, especially if you're not like real quick on your feet for improvisations and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. But the difficulty in running an old school hex crawl versus the difficulty in running like a big, expansive, modern campaign with like a story and plot lines and stuff, even a pre-written one. Like, we're not talking about any sort of homebrew campaign idea for that. Like, running a modern D&D 5th edition campaign involves a tremendous amount of reading. Like, you have to read an entire book and sort of like put it in your head and make sure it is all connected and prepped and stuff. Whereas like an old school hex scroll is just like, yeah, here's your village, here's a bunch of dungeons, go. You know? Mangg was wacky, so I'm gonna be 2. But that said, he'll probably be much more knowledgeable from the experience, so maybe he can pull it off. Well, and like I said, that sort of playstyle, that sort of wackiness doesn't really fly in an old school game. Like, if we were running Shadowdark and I played like that with Big, he would have been dead within like a few minutes. And like I said, like it was like a one-shot mentality, and I just hadn't really played in a while, so I just kind of let loose. But I don't really condone how I played Big, right? Like, taking away that much sort of agency from the other players and just sort of hogging the spotlight. It's not really advisable. So, and a better DM obviously would be able to wrangle that a little bit more. If I did have a player that was like that. And we were playing something like, I don't know, like 13th Age or something. It's like a good DM can kind of wrangle the other party members and keep them involved in some way, or keep the party contained in some way without just giving one player the spotlight the whole time. I don't think he'll really... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I do think that he's going to have some difficulty with prep. He's not that big of a reader. You know, no one in my family is, aside from myself. So he's not that big on reading. And he doesn't manage his time very well. So he didn't really have almost anything prepped for this session, except for the fact that he read the whole module, which I was impressed enough with. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of like dead time because he didn't prepare things with Foundry and blah blah blah. And it's just like, yeah, that's why Shadowdark might be better. It's like, we don't even need Foundry. We don't even need a virtual tabletop. You can just DM, you know. So, exploring DMing incoming. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about making like actual scripted videos about RPGs, but I perpetually feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. You know? Like, you read all these like blogs and stuff about people that I've been playing for 30 years, and I've DM'd 3 billion times, so I know everything. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't DM'd that much. And my only real experience DMing has been with some really terrible players. Also, like, making any sort of RPG video content that's not based around D&D 5th edition is sort of rough. I guess on this channel I don't really care that much about views, but anyways, so we'll finish Ghostlight presumably on Wednesday. And then, depending on how long that goes, you know, we might discuss Shadowdark. See how Lego's feeling. I mean, maybe he's just like, yeah, I tried DMing. It's not for me. I'm going to give it back to you. And so maybe the week after, you know, we'll be back to our Shadowdark campaign. We'll see. I mean, I would like him to be enjoying DMing, because I certainly like to play. But yeah, 5th edition is just, it's right in that ass crack. And we're playing with sort of the new 2024 rules, but obviously that doesn't change that much from 5th edition. And At the same time, it's like I don't even know what they really have to do differently. They have by far the largest market share. They have more market share than like every single other RPG combined off of name recognition. And it's like people don't really give a shit how good or bad the game is. It's just it's D&D. That's the game. We play D&D. Yeah. Anyways, so this week on this channel, more Dominions, more solo RPGs that don't involve Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and more Ashes. And over on the Exploring series, Containment Breach Capacity Part 1. But otherwise, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg, and I'll see you fine folks next week.